Hello, how's it going? That's right. Common sense and I was going to say UK fraud, but logic? Lack of logic? I'm not really quite sure how to define it. Like, it's such an iffy thing because I have to preface everything with allegedly. Because, as I say, I don't really know, and the issue I have is I'm not the best person to be speaking about this kind of thing or investigating this kind of thing. Like, whilst I can highlight possible, instances where things don't add up, I can't definitively say this. But, like I say with common sense, it's one of these weird things where it's like, it needs to be taught. Like, you don't just there's no such thing. Like, whilst there is a degree of common sense that people have, it's like, well, it's that old saying, isn't it? Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. At the moment, we live in a society where people just hand out fish and then expect the problem to just disappear. And then when the person comes back on day 2 going, where's my next fish? We're like, well, what we gave you a fish? Which, And I use that analogy because it seems to be the problem that doesn't seem to be addressed. Like, and I'm going to give you some examples because, like I say, this is the problem when I don't have stuff to do. When my nose isn't jammed into the grindstone, as like I start to look at what's going on in the world and pay attention to things, and yeah. Whilst a lot of what I'm saying is potentially conspiracy adjacent, it's like it wouldn't take an awful lot of investigation or investigative journalism to prove what I'm saying because, I'm basing it on some sort of logic and/or, wow. The parables. The reason I mentioned the fraud in the UK is because of the parables with the US. What do I mean? Well, the whole migrant crisis, in inadvertent commas, seems to be a politically motivated thing. I hate to put it like that, but it's like someone's making an awful lot of money from the hotel groups, and it as someone pointed out, with a very small amount of research, you can see there may be political ties. And it's like, well, another example, the hemp industry. The reason legal cannabis has had such an issue in the UK is because, well, apparently, allegedly, there were ties between a prime minister's husband and one of the biggest hemp industries or companies in the UK. But as I say, the other glaringly obvious thing as well is the lack of services. What do I mean by that? Well, someone's playing a development simulator wrong. Like, the local town and or area I come from, well, I'll give the local town as an example. The population has doubled in the last 20 years, but yet the fire station remains the same size. The police station has been disbanded, essentially, moved and cucked. And whose great idea that was as well. That's a fucking whole issue in of itself, because there used to be a singular police force that, needed funding, needed training. Now we have a bunch of different organisations that may or may not fail, like, or schemes like the PCSOs that were supposed to be training with police but then ended up getting sent out on their own, which inevitably failed. And there's so many instances where it's like the money doesn't seem to be going where it's supposed to. If a town doubles in size, you would think the firehouse would double in size. The ambulance service would double in size. Like I say, the local library would double in size. There would be a community centre. And a lot of these things don't exist. I was genuinely going to take you around the local town and actually show you, because it's like, for all the talk, there's a lot of houses, but not a lot of services to back up the infrastructure that actually, you would argue would be important and or integral to the continual growth. Like, and this is why I say it's weird. In the UK, it's different because it's not like, it's very difficult to do. You've got to be within the government there's levels, and like I say, I'm not in the position to be fucking around with going after political, politicians, local government, and or big government, because I'm just a fucking artist. I just like making art and making cool shit. But there does seem to be a pattern, because, well, there's another example. They spent, what was it, like 30 million building a call centre that was supposed to be for fire rescue and police, that they then didn't actually use, and then sold the building at a loss. Which is, well, I don't even know if they, like I say, it's situations like where they're wasting money on feckless schemes rather than just funding the services that are required. Because for all they spend money on these new ideas and new schemes, it's like the things that actually work and the common sense things that, play any video game that revolves around city building. If you just build houses, unless you charge an inordinate amount of tax, which they do, but, it doesn't actually provide the money doesn't go back into the services if the people there aren't actually, because like I say, there's no benefit to them. Whereas building houses, well, you might know a builder or a developer, backdoor commissions. Like, I'm not entirely sure how a lot of it's done, but it just seems like I say, a slow decline and or a sort of a weird thing where it's like they'll try things, fail, but not learn from the failure. Like, classic example, prisons. Just chatting to a friend about Australia, because, if you ever want to understand why a system doesn't work, let's look at what happened the last time we filled up prison systems and then had to do something about it. And then look at the results and go, okay, what countries are doing it better? Who's not getting the, people to recommit? How do we get people out of the system rather than continuing to just fund and or build more prisons? Like, that's not it just doesn't add up. Like, because they're not fixing the root causes. They're not fixing the education system. They're not actually fixing a lot of the things that are supposed to be, like most people, rehabilitation should be an integral part of it. Like with the basic common sense of, if you're an immigrant and you break the law, then you should, free strike policy and you're out. What are we doing here? Surely that is just logical and or common sense. While I agree the laws aren't set in a way that actually makes it that easy to do currently, it's like, well, yeah, but why? And when, I think someone pointed out that we'd given Pakistan 5 billion over like 20, 30 years or something. Where's the accountability? Because where does the money go? And, who's actually being held accountable to seeing what the fuck happened? Because, like I say, building a bigger firehouse, you $500,000. Building like training grounds for fucking police, and actually, well, I saw someone recently point out they should have like a Sandhurst, military style school that everyone goes to, and they have to go through a basic requirements. But for me, it's upsetting because it's like I say, my grandfather fought for the country. Now I look at it and it's like if there was another world war and 80% of the people out there wouldn't get through military training. And unfortunately, it's like I say, if there is a national conscript, it's like, ooh, we're fucked. Because people aren't going to get along long enough to not, you know what I mean? It's like there's going to be so much infighting, which, yeah. And like I say, I get it. You can take nationalism to the extremes. You can be extremist with anything. Like, there's extreme Christianity. But to my knowledge, I can't think of a Christian terror attack. I mean, there's been anti-Semitism, and there's been. Well, I was trying to think. There was actually Guy Fawkes. I think that was the only one I could think of in the UK that. And I mean, I know there's been more and or similar things, but it's like, what are we doing here, people? Like, when are we going to use statistics and or the information that we have? It's like we've gained all of this education, we have all of this knowledge, and yet people don't want to do the work. Or they want to find ways to get paid for work they're not doing or haven't done, which is baffling. Like, and I get it, like, everyone wants it fucking easy. I'd love to have an income that I don't have to actually work for. Like, but that's not reality. Like, this is why I've got to do what you see in front of you. I've got to make things and or attempt to sell things to make money. Like, there is no benefits for artists. It's like, you make something and you sell it. If it doesn't sell, then you've got to keep making stuff and keep trying to sell shit. Because otherwise, well, like I say, the reality is you got no money and you ain't got no money. But to summarise, is like I feel the need to bring this stuff up because it needs to be talked about. It needs to be, handled with people that have actual ability to convey this in a meaningful way. I'm just an ideas man. Like, whilst I can see there's issues and I can see there's clearly something going on and something slightly fucking iffy, but, I got to be careful because without empirical evidence, it is just a conspiracy. And it's like I say, it's just looking at the parables and the sort of the weird things that seem to be going on where it's like, huh. Strange. Very strange. If you're wondering what you're looking at as well, this is the latest collection I've just released into the world after much consideration. It's like, because hey, like I mentioned, if you want to help support me, there are ways of doing it without breaking the bank. But at the same time, with so many ideas and so many things that I want to achieve, it's like, I've got to at least try to shoot for the moon. Like, saw someone getting upset about pricing, and I was almost had to point out the fact that, you know, all art could be fallen under that same category. You know what I mean? It's like, all of Banksy works is stencils done with a graffiti can. And I mean, not all of it. He's done a lot. Like, a lot. It's not to take away from his work, but, you know, let's be fucking real here. You know what I mean? It's like, a lot of it is just that. It's stencil work on walls with graffiti cans. It's not, you know. We've got to start somewhere. And like I say, I've got stuff. There's no point, you know, cutting your nose off to spite your face. Is like, set your price too low, you spend the rest of your life chasing fucking sales, and I cannot just, well, it's not that I can't, I just don't have the mental capacity. I'm good at what I do, I'm good at ideas, I'm good at creatively playing around, like, and like I say, what you're looking at is essentially a collage. It's a drawing, well, a mixed media drawing which has been collaged onto, well, there's like 3 different images there. Like, I'm not going to try and justify it. It is what it is. New stuff out there. But I just felt the need to talk about this sort of stuff because it's much like with the BBC. It seems to be things have got a bit fucking shady, and it's like, where's the accountability for people's wages? Where's the accountability for the money that's, you know, if it's a publicly funded organisation, surely there should be some accountability. Because every other, like, you set up a charity, you have to be entirely accountable. Like, but there seems to be a lot of these, like, non-government organisations. You know, they're set up as apparently not funded by the government, but they're entirely funded by the government, which would make them publicly funded. And if they are publicly funded companies, surely they should have to abide by the same rules as the public. But as I say, there seems to be it's that sort of legal fraud. It's a very British thing to do, unfortunately. It's like, find loopholes. It's kind of the reason why I bring up Guy Fawkes, because, you know, what, for nearly 100 years we celebrated. Whilst, yes, it was technically bonfire night, and technically we burnt an effigy of the man that was burnt, but, you know, it's only when the government realised that most people were actually celebrating it that they went, oh, well, you can't do that anymore. It's a public safety risk. Fire, it might hurt someone. You know what I mean? It's that kind of mentality where it's like, we'll stop people from having fires just so they don't burn themselves, rather than teaching people not to play with fire. Or likewise, teaching them the consequences of playing with fire, because you will melt yourself and it will hurt. And it is not recommended, but, you know. Apparently now we have to accommodate for fucking everyone, which means we accommodate for absolutely no one. And whilst I'm not saying any side is right or wrong, there's good and bad on fucking every side. It's just, at a certain point, where is the, you know, well, Whereas, like I say, the accountability, because in every other area of the public, it's like there's vetting, there's checks, there's fucking balances, there's taxes, there's this, there's that, there's like a billion and one fucking things, like loop things you got to jump through and do a fucking song and dance about. But yeah, there seems to be a lot of innate corruption that doesn't seem to be addressed. And like I say, that's innately the problem when the government owns the fucking media companies, because when they own the media companies, it's not in their vested interest. To be honest, is it? Doesn't take a fucking genius to work that one out. But unfortunately, it's that Orwellian fucking horseshit where they're right because they say they're right, you know? It's that very Victorian-esque mentality, and it's like, you gotta live by the sword and die by the sword, you know what I mean? It's like, if you're gonna expect everyone else to abide by a certain level or certain standard of rules and etiquette and, you know, civil behaviour, then why the fuck shouldn't you be held to the same level of accountability? Like, you fuck up, apologise, move the fuck on. Right? It's really that simple. Oh, well, we fucked up. Let's not do that again. That's why I say with like prisons in Australia, because it's like, you know, let's realise that just jamming people in cells is probably not the best way of actually fixing a problem. Like, and there's not to say that education is going to completely nullify crime, because it won't. Because it, you know, but like with mental health, it's become a bit of a joke. Like, they want you to jump through hoops. And I say jump through hoops because if you are depressed, you have to fill out a questionnaire. You then have to speak to someone. You then have to speak to someone else. You have to fill in forms. You have to go through services. You have to take pills. And eventually they might get to actually resolving the problem that caused or is causing the issues. And that's the fucking ridiculous nature of the society we live in, where it's like, we can't just fix a problem. We have to, you know, we can't just create solutions. We can't just try to find a better way of dealing with something. There's always this kind of a, no, you have to go through these steps that aren't going to fucking help you and make sure that you're, you know. Whilst I get it, there's a multitude of things that can go wrong in this world. There's a multitude of shit that can happen, but defining your life by it isn't necessarily the best way of dealing with it. Like I've got addictive tendencies. Am I an addict? No, because I don't associate myself with it, and I wouldn't ever want to associate myself with that because it's not a positive trait. Whilst I recognise that, you know, I have a family history of addiction, but I'm mindful and or avoid certain things due to that. You know what I mean? It's like, but do I want to go sit in a focus group and hold hands and kumbaya my way out of it? It's like, no, I'm all right. Quite happy just finding a solution and focusing on the solution. Like with the problem with Africa, and it's like quite willing to throw money at a problem, less willing to actually find solutions to the problem. Like, and like I say, you don't fix hunger by giving people food. You fix hunger by giving them farming supplies and education on how to grow and produce their own food. But as a farmer pointed out recently, seems to be a disconnect. Because like in the UK, we only grow about 60% of our food, which is fucking ludicrous. And all the schemes for the next 20 years are for wildlife and nature and, green schemes essentially is like carbon offsetting. It's not actually dealing with the problem of carbon. It's not creating forests. It's not creating actual ecosystems. It's just paying people to essentially divert all of their time and money into something that isn't actually producing anything. It's not producing results. It's not going to produce a solution. It's not going to automatically make it cooler because, well, yeah, you need forests. You need, there's a bigger problem that is a global problem, not a local problem, but, pulling all your resources away from food to fix a problem that you can't fix is just fucking... It's insane. It's like I say, it's just insane. Like the logical loopholes you have to jump through to get to that fucking level of dumbassery. It's like, fuck. It's like we need to build and create forests around the world. You need to work on creating ecosystems around the world and actually get people producing food, becoming self-sufficient. But unfortunately, there seems to be this weird thing, this, like I say, weird socialist mentality where everything is centralized and government controls everything and must control everything. And it's like, which is why that's why they don't want to emphasize self-sufficiency and growing and producing and, like I say, looking at the larger problem of carbon, because it ain't going anywhere. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get fucking hotter. But that's, like I say, the crazy nature of humans is like, we'd rather make AC and worry about it in the future. But that's why a lot of it isn't an issue to a lot of people, because, well, they have AC, it's nice and cool in their house. What do you mean? It's like, well, if you want to actually go and enjoy nature and enjoy the world that you live in, it doesn't come with AC. But that's the weird, like I say, the weird sort of dystopian thing nowadays where it's like everyone wants to travel the world and see everything without ever actually putting anything back into it. What are you doing to improve the environment rather than actively destroying it and then going, oh yeah, but I saw that. Yeah, why? Cool. What benefit was that to you in your life? Did you have an epiphany when you saw that thing? And the answer is no. A lot of the times it's just, like I say, it's just to say that they did it. It's much like the Everest experience. People do it so they can say that they've done it. Which, yeah. Logic, like I say, logic left the chat somewhere along the line, which is why common sense is gone, because, well, if you're not teaching logic at a base level, it's like it's never gonna, there's a reason these problems exist. There's a reason why, like I say, I'm not the person to be highlighting and or investigating a lot of this shit, because, well, I have a past that will basically mean that everything I say is not taken seriously. Or not as seriously as if it was to come from people that had a good education and a good background, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah. Whilst I may be good with ideas, I ain't that smart. And I'm not gonna, you know... Love that people will always try and tell me to not write myself off, and it's like, I'm not writing myself off. It's just a case of knowing my limits. And or, well, I was going to say knowing my place, but, you know, meh. And this is the thing, this is what I say, is like, I don't have all the answers, but this is where I can objectively look at something and go, well, what about the statistics? Like I say, with local town planning, doesn't take a genius to work it out, does it? Like, because if you want better services, you have to invest in them. Like local libraries, you're not going to improve them if you don't put money into them. They're not going to magically improve themselves because they are, well, a benefit to everyone. Should be. But like I say, with the local library, it's like, whilst they've had some improvements and it doesn't add up to the rest of it, like, because like I say, if you improve something, if you add that many people and that many houses, well, you need to equally update and continually update the other services, which doesn't happen. It just doesn't. Like I say, with the library, it's like half of the books that are available aren't on the shelves because they don't have the space. Which, yeah, it's kind of sad. Like, but that seems to be the thing that's missed, where it's like, reading should be highlighted. It's like, helps you to build that kind of critical analysis and or ability to think for yourself. Critical thinking skills, critical analysis. I don't know quite how you define it, but, you know, whilst many people will point to university as the place where you achieve and gain these things, it's like, I tend to think of it more as a honing process. University should be about honing skills, you know what I mean? It's like, if you want to specialise, well, you've got to work twice as hard. And the reality is, like with most specialities, you're going to lose skills in other areas. Like, my social skills suck. Why? Because I've spent 10 years drawing, basically. Drawing and painting and living in my own little bubble, you know what I mean? It's like... But, you know, if you don't have those skills to begin with, it's yeah, you're always going to be behind. And like I say, ooh, you can only blame the public education system when you're looking at the bigger picture. And as like I said to a friend, I think that's the problem, because the minute you try and get people to look at the bigger picture or focus on this notion of public good, you know, what's best for people now and in the future, it upsets people because their feelings aren't acknowledged. Their ego won't allow them to think for millions, because what about them? And it's like, that's the problem. At the moment, we have things ass backwards. You know, my friend put it very succinctly, where they said there's like, it's that old moral puzzle, you know, would you kill one person to save a million? Because most people would say yes. But at the moment, we live in a society where they'll kill a million just to save one. Which, it's not to discount people's feelings, it's more to acknowledge, like I say, the bigger picture. It's like with the whole Palestine-Israel thing. It's like, if you don't understand the bigger picture, then you maybe shouldn't be getting involved. Because, yeah. Whew. Geopolitics and or that kind of thing is very difficult to understand and comprehend from a Western point of view. And, yeah. But like I say, I'm going to keep talking and or throwing shit out in the world, because why the fuck not at the moment? Until I've got some more money to get more art supplies and start getting some of these other projects on the road, as I ain't got shit else to do. I'm an artist without art supplies. What the fuck else am I supposed to do? But that's why I say about the artworks you see, because I will be doing more videos on them, I will be sharing them, I will be pushing them out there, because I get, like, and as much as it might upset some people, is like, one of the earliest photos I have of myself is with a bottle of beer. Vices have been a part of my life in some way, shape or form. Well, the entire time. So, meh. It could be worse. Go look at the Heaven and Hell series, because that could be here instead. Oof. That was up some people. Did I cover everything? Pretty much. Although, like I say, logic is a very difficult one to talk about, because it's such a complex thing. Requires you to be able to look at 3 or 4 or like several different pieces of information and try and actually figure something out yourself, which, yeah. But hey, if you want to see me get back to the grindstone and or create more art, go buy some of my art. It's the best way to get me to shut the fuck up. Buy some art, and then I'll get back and keep making art and doing my own thing. Anyhow, boys, enjoy the banter and or weekly updates. I will leave link in the description for said images, and as per usual, all socials and such are in the description below. So like, share, subscribe, all that usual bollocks, and I will be back next week, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Talk about something else. Thank you very much for watching. Stay awesome. Be positive. Peace out, my lovers. My lovers.